We were packing our bags in Verona, preparing to leave for the airport and our flight to Sao Paulo, when my phone chimed with an email notification. I almost ignored it, probably just spam or a newsletter I'd forgotten to unsubscribe from, but something made me check. The sender was an email address I didn't recognize, but the subject line stopped me cold. Chicago business requires urgent attention, Dr. David Reeves. A name I hadn't thought about in almost a year, a client from my information broker days. One of the more complicated ones, morally speaking. I opened the email with a growing sense of dread. Peter, I know you've left this life behind, but I need your help. It's about the Meridian file you worked on 3 years ago. I'm in Ljubljana, Slovenia. I need to see you in person before you disappear to South America. This is urgent and affects you whether you help me or not. Please, David. Who's Dr.? Mariana asked, noticing my expression. Someone from my old life. Client. He says he needs to see me urgently about something I worked on years ago. In Ljubljana? That's random. What's in Ljubljana? I don't know, but he says it affects me whether I help him or not. That sounds like a threat. Mariana sat down on the bed. We're supposed to fly to Brazil tomorrow. Today's our last day in Europe. I know. Do you want to see him? Do you have to? I read the email again, trying to read between the lines. The Meridian file. I remembered it vaguely. A corporate investigation, something about financial fraud, executive malfeasance. I'd compiled information for David, given him what he'd paid for, and moved on to the next job. I hadn't asked questions about what he planned to do with it. That had been my policy: provide the information, get paid, don't get involved. But if he was contacting me now, 3 years later, saying it affected me whether I helped or not, that was concerning. I think I need to see him, I said. I need to know what this is about. If there's potential blowback from something I did in Chicago, I need to deal with it before we start fresh in Brazil. Mariana was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Okay, we'll go to Ljubljana. But Peter, this is the last one. The last ghost from your past. After this, we closed that door completely. Agreed. Agreed. We changed our flight reservations. Instead of Verona to Sao Paulo, we'd fly Verona to Ljubljana, spend a day or two dealing with whatever David needed, then continue to Brazil. It would cost extra money and delay our arrival, but Mariana was right. This had to be the last thread from my old life that needed cutting. The flight to Ljubljana was short, less than an hour. Slovenia appeared below us as we descended. A small country wedged between Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Croatia, with dramatic alpine mountains in the north and the Adriatic coast in the south. Ljubljana, the capital, sat in the center, a city I knew almost nothing about except that it was supposed to be beautiful and undiscovered by most tourists. From the airport, we took a bus into the city center, and my first impression was surprise. Ljubljana was smaller than I'd expected. More like a large town than a capital city, but immediately charming. A river ran through the center, lined with trees just starting to show autumn colors. Elegant buildings in various architectural styles, Baroque, Art Nouveau, brutalist socialist architecture, all mixed together, and dominating everything, a castle on a hill overlooking the city. This is beautiful, Mariana said as we walked from the bus station toward our hotel. Why have we never heard of this place? Slovenia's been independent less than 30 years. It used to be part of Yugoslavia. I think it's still figuring out how to market itself to tourists. Our hotel was near Prešeren Square, the main square where several of the city's famous bridges converged. After checking in, I sent a reply to David's email. I'm in Ljubljana. Where do you want to meet? The response came within minutes. Cafe Macalanca, near Tromostovj Bridge. 1 hour. Come alone if possible, but I understand if you bring your friend. Thank you for coming. Mariana insisted on coming with me. I'm not letting you walk into some spy movie scenario alone. Whatever this is, we face it together. That's what the ring means. Remember? She held up her right hand, where the promise ring caught the afternoon light. You're right. Together. Cafe Macalanca turned out to be a trendy spot with large windows looking out onto the triple bridge. Actually 3 pedestrian bridges side by side. a distinctive architectural feature of Ljubljana. We arrived early and took a table near the back where we could see the entrance. "Are you nervous?" Mariana asked. "Yeah. I don't know what he wants or why he's here." David Reeves was complicated. Rich, powerful, always operating in gray areas. The kind of client who paid well but made you feel dirty taking the money. "What did you do for him?" "Corporate espionage, basically. Finding information about competitors, about business rivals, about people he was negotiating with. All legal, technically. I never hacked anything or broke into anywhere. But morally, I knew he was using the information to gain unfair advantages, to destroy competitors, to manipulate situations." "And the Meridian file he mentioned?" "I honestly don't remember the details. Something about executives at Meridian Capital Partners, an investment firm. Financial irregularities, maybe fraud. I compiled information from public records, connected dots, built a case. But I never knew what he did with it after I handed it over." David Reeves walked in exactly on time. He was in his early 50s, graying at the temples, dressed in an expensive suit that looked slightly out of place in the casual cafe. His eyes scanned the room with practiced wariness before landing on me. He walked over and I stood to shake his hand. His grip was firm, but his hand was trembling slightly. "Peter, thank you for coming. And you must be Mariana. I apologize for the intrusion on your plans." "What's this about, David?" I asked once we'd all sat down. "Why Ljubljana? Why now?" He ordered coffee first, taking his time, gathering his thoughts. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet and serious. 3 years ago, you helped me compile information about executives at Meridian Capital Partners. Specifically, you documented evidence of systematic fraud, cooking books, stealing from pension funds, bribing auditors. It was all there, verifiable, damning. I remember now, vaguely. What did you do with it? Nothing. He looked away. I paid you, took the information, and did nothing. I planned to use it. Meridian had screwed me over on a deal, and I wanted revenge. But then I realized that exposing them would also expose my own involvement in some questionable activities. So I sat on it, put it in a safe, and forgot about it. Okay, so why are we here? Because 3 months ago, Meridian Capital went public. Initial public offering, massive success. The executives you investigated are now worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They're being celebrated as brilliant businessmen, appearing on magazine covers, advising governments. And they're still running the same frauds on a much larger scale. Thousands of people have their retirement savings invested with Meridian, and it's all built on lies. Mariana leaned forward. "And you want to expose them now?" "Yes, but the information is 3 years old. I need it verified, updated, cross-checked. And Peter." He looked directly at me. "They know someone investigated them back then. They've been quietly trying to figure out who compiled that information. They have your name, Peter. I don't know how, but they do. I heard through channels that they're looking for you." I felt cold. "Looking for me? How?" "I don't know if they want to threaten you into silence, pay you off, or something worse. But if I expose this now and they realize you were the source of the original investigation, they'll come after you, whether you help me or not." "So what? You're saying I'm screwed either way?" "No. I'm saying your only protection is to help me do this right. If we expose them publicly through proper channels, investigative journalists, regulatory authorities, then you're protected. You're a witness, a source, under media protection. But if the information leaks privately, if they find out you were involved without the public exposure, then you're vulnerable." Mariana's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. "Why Ljubljana?" I asked. "Because I have a contact here. A journalist with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. They're based here, and they're the best in the world at handling this kind of thing, corporate fraud investigations that cross borders. If we give them the story properly documented, they'll run it. Full exposure, legal protection for sources. It's the safest way to do this. And you need my help. Why? You have the information. I need you to verify it's still accurate, to fill in gaps, to cross-reference with current public records. You're better at this than I am, Peter. You always were. And he paused. I need you to tell me I'm doing the right thing. That exposing these people is worth potentially destroying my own reputation in the process. Because they're going to come after me too. I sat back trying to process this. My old life, the one I'd left behind, had found me anyway. And now I had a choice. Help David expose corporate fraud and potentially protect myself, or refuse and hope that men with millions to lose and no morals never found me in Brazil. Can I talk to Mariana alone for a minute? I asked. David nodded and moved to the counter, leaving us at the table. What do you think? I asked her. I think your past caught up with you. I think you can't run from this. And I think... She paused. I think this is different from your other investigations. This isn't chasing mysteries for fun. This is real people being hurt by fraud, real consequences. If you have information that could help stop that, maybe you have a responsibility to use it. Even if it means delaying Brazil, even if it's dangerous. We delay Brazil by a day or two. And as for dangerous, she held up her hand again, showing the ring. We're in this together, remember? We face things together. I pulled David back to the table. I'll help, I said, but on conditions. 1, we do this fast. I want to be in Brazil within 48 hours. 2, you guarantee protection through this journalist consortium. Full anonymity for me as a source. 3, after this, it's done. This is the last thing from my Chicago life. After this, David, we're done. I don't want to hear from you again. Agreed. All of it. We spent the rest of that day and all of the next in David's hotel room, laptops and documents spread across every surface. David had kept everything, the original files I'd given him, plus his own notes, plus newer information he'd been collecting. My job was to verify everything was still accurate, cross-reference with current public information, and build a timeline that showed the fraud was ongoing and systematic. It was tedious, painstaking work, the kind of deep-dive research I used to do regularly in Chicago but hadn't touched in months. And I had to admit, part of me enjoyed it. Not the moral ambiguity or the danger, but the puzzle-solving aspect. Taking disparate pieces of information and connecting them into a coherent picture. Mariana sat with me the whole time, sometimes helping, sometimes just reading a book, but always there. Her presence kept me grounded, reminded me why I was doing this and what waited on the other side of it. By the evening of the second day, we had a comprehensive document. Over 100 pages of evidence, financial records, emails, testimony from whistleblowers, documentation of false statements to auditors and regulators. It was airtight. Meridian Capital's executives were going down. David's contact, a Finnish journalist named Kirsi Valtonen, came to review everything. She was in her 40s, serious and professional, and she spent 3 hours going through every piece of evidence we'd compiled. This is excellent work, she finally said. We can use this. We'll need some time to do additional reporting, to contact the companies and individuals involved for comment, but yes, this is a major story. And protection for sources? I asked. Absolute. You'll be referred to only as Source A in any publication. Your identity is protected by law in most jurisdictions where we publish. Meridian won't be able to touch you legally. What about illegally? That's harder to control. But once the story is public, harming sources becomes much riskier for them. It draws attention, confirms guilt. Most likely, they'll focus on damage control and legal defense. It wasn't perfect protection, but it was the best I was going to get. That evening, David, Mariana, and I had dinner at a restaurant near Ljubljana Castle. The city was beautiful at night, the river reflecting lights, people strolling along the embankments enjoying the autumn weather. Thank you, David said as we ate, for helping, for doing this. I know I pulled you away from your plans. Why did you really contact me? I asked. You could have hired someone else to verify this information. Why come back to me specifically? He was quiet for a moment. Because you were always the best I worked with. Thorough, discreet, professional. But also because I needed someone who would understand what it means to want to make up for past mistakes. To do something right after years of doing morally gray things. Is that what this is? Redemption. Maybe. I made my fortune doing questionable things, working in gray areas, not asking too many questions about who got hurt. Just like you did. But there's a line, Peter. And Meridian crossed it. They're not just playing in gray areas. They're destroying people's lives, stealing retirement savings from people who worked their whole lives. That's different. That deserves to be exposed. So you do have a conscience after all. Turns out, yes, though it took me long enough to listen to it. I thought about that as we finished dinner. David was right, we'd both operated in moral gray zones, both justified it by saying we were just providing information, not responsible for how it was used. But that was cowardice. We were responsible. We always had been. The difference was I'd walked away. I'd left that life behind and was trying to build something better. David was still in it but trying to make amends. Maybe that was the best any of us could do. Recognize when we'd been wrong and try to do better going forward. Our last morning in Ljubljana, Mariana and I walked through the city one final time before our afternoon flight to Sao Paulo. We climbed up to the castle and looked out over the red rooftops, the river winding through the center, the Alps visible in the distance. "How do you feel?" Mariana asked. "Relieved, like I finally closed a chapter that's been hanging open. The Meridian story will break in a few weeks, and when it does, I'll be protected. After that, there's nothing left connecting me to Chicago or that life." "Do you regret it? The years you spent doing that work?" "I regret the moral compromises I made. The times I didn't ask questions because I didn't want to know the answers. But I don't regret everything. Those skills, research, investigation, connecting information, those are useful. I just need to use them better. For better purposes. Like finding lost artwork and forgotten opera singers?" "Exactly like that." She leaned against me. "I'm proud of you. For helping David. For doing the right thing even though it delayed our plans. That took courage. We did it together. I wouldn't have had the courage if you weren't here. That's what the ring means," she said. And I saw her smile at the simple band on her finger. Together. In Ljubljana investigating corporate fraud. In Brazil figuring out visa paperwork. Wherever life takes us. The flight to Sao Paulo left that evening. As the plane lifted off and Slovenia disappeared below us, I felt lighter than I had in months. The past was truly behind me now. The last thread connecting me to my old life had been cut. Ahead was Brazil. A new country, a new language, a new life. It would be challenging, probably harder than anything I'd done before. But I was ready. We were ready. 7 months ago, I'd left Chicago running from something. Now I was running toward something. Toward a future with Mariana. Toward a life built on better choices. Toward becoming the person I wanted to be rather than the person circumstances had made me. Ljubljana had forced me to confront my past one last time. But in doing so, it had freed me from it. Now there was only the future. And that future started in Sao Paulo. The plane carried us through the night, crossing Europe, crossing the Atlantic, carrying us toward whatever came next. I held Mariana's hand as she slept beside me, and I thought about all the cities we'd seen, all the discoveries we'd made, all the ways we'd both changed since that day in Porto when she'd looked up from her sketchbook and smiled at me. This journey had taught me that running away can sometimes lead you exactly where you need to be. That leaving everything behind can be the first step toward finding what really matters. That the person you are isn't fixed, you can change, grow, become better. And most importantly, it had taught me that the best adventures are the ones you don't take alone. Slovenia was behind us. Brazil awaited. And whatever challenges came with it, language barriers, cultural adjustment, visa complications, building a life from scratch, we'd face them together. Because that's what we'd promised each other. On a bridge in Verona, with a ring and sunset and words from the heart. Together. And that was enough.